The message flashed on my phone, a beacon in the year-long darkness that had consumed my life. "Mom, can we get dinner on Tuesday? I miss you." It was from Clara, my only daughter. My hands trembled as I read the words, an impossible hope blooming in my chest. Clara, who had cut me out of her life without a word, without a fight, simply a slow, agonizing fade to silence. The ache of losing a child who is still alive, still breathing somewhere, but no longer recognizes you, is a unique kind of torture. I had replayed every memory, searched for every misstep. Was it when her husband, David, entered her life? When I questioned their sudden financial decisions? Or that ill-fated family dinner where I worried aloud about her weight, and David, not Clara, had snapped back that I should mind my own health? Now, this text. It felt like a parched traveler stumbling upon an oasis, too desperate to question if it was a mirage. The days crawled by. Each tick of the clock felt like a heavy stone dropping into a silent well. I found myself staring blankly at the walls of my quiet house, the silence amplifying the frantic whispers of my own anxiety. What if it was a trick? What if she canceled? What if, after all this time, she still didn't want me? The uncertainty was a dull, constant throb behind my eyes. I tried to distract myself, burying my nose in a new shipment of books at my small independent bookstore, but the words blurred on the pages. My mind kept returning to Clara, to the last time I'd seen her, her eyes distant, her smile strained. Tuesday finally arrived, draped in a soft, late autumn chill. I tried on 5 outfits before settling on the sapphire blue silk dress Clara had given me years ago, when we were still close. The fabric felt cool against my skin, a stark contrast to the nervous heat that flushed my cheeks. I carefully applied makeup, attempting to erase the deep shadows loneliness had etched under my eyes, the fine lines around my mouth that spoke of unspoken worries. Every movement was deliberate, a ritual to calm the storm brewing within me. At 7:45 p.m., 15 minutes early, I parked outside the grand, wrought-iron gates of the estate David had purchased. The house I'd helped them buy, back when I was still welcome. The front yard was different now, starker, the vibrant rose bushes we'd planted together, replaced by manicured, uninviting hedges that seemed to stand guard rather than welcome. A shiver traced its way down my spine, unrelated to the evening air. I took a deep breath, adjusted my hair in the rearview mirror, and stepped out of the car, the gravel crunching softly under my heels. That's when I saw her. Elena, Clara's housekeeper for years, a woman whose kind eyes had always offered a silent comfort, a quiet understanding. She was running towards me, her face a mask of terror and urgency, her usually neat hair disheveled, glancing back repeatedly at the imposing house, as if pursued by an unseen predator. "Miss Eleanor," she whispered, her voice a thin, trembling thread, barely audible above the rustle of the wind through the hedges. "Don't go in there. Please, you must leave. Quickly." I froze, confusion battling with a sudden, icy dread that seeped into my bones. "Elena, what is it? Is Clara all right?" My voice was a strained whisper. "It's not about her," Elena insisted, her eyes wide with fear, darting nervously towards the house. "It's about you. Please, trust me. It's not safe." Her words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken menace. Before I could press her for more, to demand an explanation for her frantic warning, she darted another terrified look at the house, her breath catching in her throat. "I have to get back before they notice. Go, Miss Eleanor, go." And with that, she spun around and sprinted back towards the looming mansion, disappearing around the side, leaving me stranded on the sidewalk, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. What was happening? Why was Elena so terrified? Her fear was a tangible thing, a cold hand gripping my own heart. And why had Clara, after a year of silence, suddenly invited me to dinner, only for her housekeeper to warn me away? The questions swirled in my mind, a dizzying vortex of confusion and alarm. I stumbled back to my car, my legs moving on their own, while my mind reeled, trying to make sense of the impossible. I fumbled with the keys, locked the doors with a sharp click, and started the engine, the familiar rumble a small comfort in the growing unease. But I didn't drive away. A primal instinct, the same one that had guided me through 15 years of an abusive marriage before I finally found the courage to leave, told me to stay and watch, to understand. From my vantage point, partially obscured by a large oak tree, I had a clear view of the dining room through the expansive windows. The curtains were open, almost inviting me to look, to witness whatever drama was unfolding within. For a few minutes, the house remained quiet, the lights dim, as if deserted, holding its breath. Then, with a sudden, jarring brilliance, every light in the house flared on, illuminating the interior with an almost theatrical intensity. It was as if someone had been waiting for my departure to begin their performance, to pull back the curtain on a meticulously planned scene. Stage slierder his tang. Two strangers appeared in the dining room, a stern-faced man in a dark suit, his posture rigid, and a woman clutching a sleek leather folder, her expression unreadable. Their presence felt out of place, formal and cold. Then David strode in, talking animatedly on his phone, his gestures sharp and commanding, his voice a low, insistent murmur that I couldn't quite discern, but could feel the power behind. Finally, Clara emerged, dressed in a formal, severe gown, a deep emerald green that seemed to swallow her slender frame. Her face was a mask of solemnity I'd never seen before, her usual warmth replaced by an unsettling blankness. This was no mother-daughter dinner. This was a meticulously staged meeting, a chilling tableau that confirmed Elena's warning. As I watched, my breath held tight in my chest. Elena briefly appeared in the window, her eyes scanning the darkness outside. Our eyes met, and she gave a subtle, almost imperceptible shake of her head, a desperate plea for me to leave. That small, almost invisible gesture confirmed my worst fears. Leave, but I couldn't. I needed to understand. I turned off my headlights, melting further into the shadows, becoming a silent observer in the unfolding drama. David walked to the table, picked up a stack of papers, and handed them to Clara. She scanned them, her brow furrowed slightly, then signed something with a flourish, her hand moving with a practiced ease that surprised me, and then a cold, unfamiliar smile touched her lips, a brief, unsettling flash that sent a knot of dread tightening in my stomach. It wasn't just confusion anymore. It was fear, raw and visceral, a cold wave washing over me. This house, once a place of warmth and laughter with my daughter, now radiated a chilling danger. And Clara, my own daughter, seemed to be at its epicenter, an active participant in whatever sinister game was being played. 15 minutes crawled by, each second an eternity. I sat paralyzed, watching the bizarre tableau. David left and returned with more documents, his movements precise and purposeful. Clara consulted a tablet, her fingers tapping rhythmically on the screen. The two strangers murmured to each other, their voices low and conspiratorial. It was a business meeting, cold and calculated, devoid of any warmth or familial affection, certainly not a family reunion. Then David glanced at his watch, his gaze sweeping across the window, directly towards my car. I instinctively ducked, my heart leaping into my throat, a sudden surge of adrenaline making my hands clammy. When I dared to look up again, the curtains were drawn, a heavy velvet barrier now obscuring the scene. The house, once a haven where I'd rocked my daughter to sleep, was now a sealed, threatening mystery, its secrets hidden behind impenetrable walls. I started the car and drove away, but not home. I couldn't. The thought of returning to my quiet, empty house, to the silence that would amplify my terror, was unbearable. I pulled into a gas station a few miles outside the city, the fluorescent lights harsh and unforgiving. My mind was a chaotic storm, a whirlwind of questions and terrifying possibilities. What kind of trap was this? Why would Clara invite me to a dinner that clearly didn't exist? And what did Elena know that had terrified her so profoundly? I pulled out my phone, my fingers trembling, and reread Clara's message. "Mom, can we get dinner on Tuesday? I miss you." The words now seemed sinister, a thinly veiled lure, a bait in a carefully constructed trap. Was the daughter I had raised, the child I loved unconditionally, plotting against me? The thought was so agonizing, so utterly unthinkable, that tears streamed down my face before I even realized I was crying, hot and stinging against my cold cheeks. I went to the gas station restroom, the harsh white tiles reflecting my distress. I splashed cold water on my face, hoping to wash away the fear, to clear my muddled thoughts. In the mirror, I saw a stranger, graying hair, deep circles under my eyes, a frightened, haunted expression. Was this what the pain of losing my daughter had done to me? Had the grief consumed me so completely? I leaned against the sink, taking a shaky breath, trying to steady my racing pulse. I couldn't fall apart. Not now. I had to find out what was happening. I had to fight for my daughter, even if it meant fighting against her. Back in the car, the silence was broken by the insistent vibration of my phone. I noticed a missed call from an unknown number. Seconds later, a text message vibrated my phone again. "Miss Eleanor, it's me, Elena. We need to talk tomorrow at noon. The coffee shop at the main bus terminal. It's important, don't tell anyone." A sliver of hope, fragile but persistent, pierced through the darkness. Elena was reaching out. She was willing to risk something to help me. That night, sleep was an impossible luxury. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Clara's cold smile, David's calculating gaze, Elena's terror. The images replayed in an endless loop, a tormenting cinema in my mind. I tossed and turned, the sheets tangling around me like a shroud, until the first faint light of dawn finally broke through the darkness. The next day, the coffee shop at the bus terminal was bustling, a comforting cacophony of voices and clattering dishes, the aroma of stale coffee and sugar a familiar scent. Elena, looking pale and nervous, her eyes still holding a flicker of the fear from the previous night, was already there, hunched over a small table in a corner. She gripped her coffee cup as if it were a lifeline, her knuckles white. "Thank you for coming, Miss Eleanor," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the din, her gaze darting around the room as if expecting to be watched. "I know this is hard to believe, but you're in danger. David, he's a very dangerous man." She began to explain, her words tumbling out in a rush, how David had systematically isolated Clara, a slow, insidious process that had gone unnoticed by me in my own grief. He controlled her finances, her friendships, even her diet, dictating what she ate, when she ate, under the guise of health. He had convinced Clara that I was a negative influence, jealous of their perfect life, a threat to their happiness. "He's been forging documents, Miss Eleanor," Elena continued, her voice gaining a desperate urgency, her eyes pleading with me to understand. "Your signature, Clara's signature. He's trying to gain full control of your properties, your investments, everything." My mind raced back to the papers Clara had signed last night, the cold smile on her face. It all clicked into place with a sickening thud. "And the dinner invitation?" I asked, my voice tight, barely a whisper. "He sent it," Elena confirmed, her gaze dropping to her coffee cup. "From Clara's phone. He knew you would come. He was planning to make it look like an accident. He said you would fall down the stairs, and Clara would inherit everything." The air left my lungs in a ragged gasp. An accident, my own daughter's husband, plotting to murder me. The sheer depravity of it was unfathomable. And Clara, unknowingly, a pawn in his monstrous game, a victim of his insidious manipulation. "Clara," I choked out, the name a raw wound in my throat. "Does she know?" Elena shook her head sadly, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. "She's trapped, Miss Eleanor. He's poisoned her mind. She believes he's protecting her." The weight of her words settled heavily on me. Clara wasn't just a victim of David's schemes. She was a prisoner of his psychological warfare. I couldn't sit there any longer, paralyzed by shock. I had to act. I remembered a name, a woman who had helped me years ago when I finally left my abusive husband, Sarah Jenkins, a private investigator specializing in domestic abuse cases. Her calm, no-nonsense demeanor had been a beacon in my own dark time. I pulled out my phone, my fingers still trembling, and called her immediately, pouring out the horrifying story in a rush of desperate words. Sarah listened patiently, her calm voice a lifeline, a steady anchor in my turbulent sea of emotions. "We need to get Clara out of there," she said, her voice firm and clear. "But we have to be careful. David sounds like a classic abuser, extremely manipulative and controlling. Any sudden move could put Clara in more danger." Sarah arrived that afternoon with 2 colleagues, Marcus, a former police officer with a quiet strength, and Benjamin, a forensic accountant whose sharp eyes missed nothing. We met at a discreet location, a quiet farmhouse Sarah owned outside the city, nestled among rolling fields, far from prying eyes. Elena had bravely agreed to help, her courage a testament to her loyalty to Clara. She provided crucial details about David's routine, the house layout, and the forged documents she had secretly photographed with her phone, risking her own safety to gather evidence. "David has a meeting tomorrow morning," Elena explained, her voice still laced with fear, but firm with resolve. "He'll be gone for a few hours. That's our window. The plan was simple, yet terrifyingly delicate. We would go to the house, confront Clara, and try to convince her to leave with us. If she resisted, if David's hold on her was too strong, we would have to respect her decision, but at least she would know the truth. The burden of knowledge, however painful, was better than the blissful ignorance that could lead to her demise. The next morning, my heart pounded with a mixture of hope and dread as we drove towards the estate. The air in the car was thick with unspoken tension. Elena had already confirmed David's departure with a coded text message, a single word, clear. We parked a few blocks away, the car blending in with the other vehicles on the quiet residential street, and approached the house on foot, our footsteps muffled by the fallen leaves. Elena, her face pale but determined, her hands clasped tightly together, unlocked the back gate, leading us through a service entrance, past overgrown bushes, and a forgotten shed. The house felt eerily silent, a stark contrast to the previous night's unsettling activity, as if holding its breath, waiting for us. We found Clara in the sunroom, a glass-enclosed space overlooking the barren garden, staring blankly out at the skeletal branches of the trees. She looked even thinner than I remembered, her shoulders hunched, her eyes hollow, a ghost of the vibrant woman she once was. The sight of her, so diminished, twisted a knife in my heart. "Clara," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion, barely audible. She turned, her eyes widening in shock, then fear, like a cornered animal. "Mom? What are you doing here? How did you get in?" Her voice was weak, reedy. "Clara," Sarah said gently, stepping forward, her demeanor calm and reassuring. "My name is Sarah Jenkins. We're here because we're worried about you." Clara's gaze darted to Elena, a flicker of betrayal in her eyes, then back to me, confusion warring with the fear. "Mom, you shouldn't be here. David, he'll be furious." The mention of his name sent a fresh wave of terror through her. "He won't be here for a while," Marcus interjected, his voice firm but reassuring, his presence a solid anchor in the room. "Clara, we need to talk to you about David." For the next hour, we laid out the truth, piece by agonizing piece. Benjamin, with his quiet authority, showed her the photographic evidence of the forged documents, her signature, my signature, all manipulated to transfer assets to David, to strip us of everything we owned. Elena, her voice trembling but resolute, recounted David's chilling conversation about my accident, the casual way he had planned my demise. I spoke of the dinner invitation, the one he had sent from her phone, a cruel deception. Clara listened, her face a kaleidoscope of emotions, disbelief, confusion, then a dawning horror that slowly spread across her features, draining the last vestiges of color from her cheeks. "No," she murmured, shaking her head, a desperate denial. "He wouldn't do that. He loves me. He protects me." Her voice was barely a whisper, a plea to herself more than to us. "Protects you from what, Clara?" Sarah asked, her voice calm but penetrating, cutting through the layers of David's lies. "From the world? From the people who love you? Look at yourself. Are you happy? Are you healthy? Or are you scared all the time?" Tears welled in Clara's eyes, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. I wanted to rush to her, to hold her, to tell her everything would be all right, but Sarah had advised against it. Clara needed to process this herself, to come to her own conclusions, to break free from the psychological chains that bound her. He says you don't understand me," she sobbed, her voice cracking. "That you want to control me, that only he knows what's best for me." "And do you believe that?" I asked softly, my heart breaking into 1,000 pieces at the sight of her pain. "I don't know what to believe anymore," she admitted, looking utterly exhausted, as if the weight of the world rested on her slender shoulders. "I'm so tired." It was then I truly saw the depth of the damage David had inflicted. Not just physical, in her gaunt frame and hollow eyes, but emotional, psychological. He had systematically dismantled her confidence, her sense of reality, her connection to everyone who truly cared for her. And I, in my pain, had allowed it to happen by staying away, by respecting her silence when I should have fought harder. "Clara," Sarah said, her voice gentle but firm, "you don't have to decide anything right now. We're just asking you to come with us for a few hours. To talk in a neutral place, away from David's influence, where you can think clearly." "He'll be furious if I leave," she murmured, the fear palpable in her voice, a tremor running through her body. "Does he control where you go?" Marcus asked, his tone professional, but his eyes blazing with indignation, a silent fury at the injustice. Clara hesitated, her gaze distant, as if realizing for the first time the absurdity of her situation, the invisible cage she had been living in. He says it's for my safety, that there are people who want to hurt us." "People like your mother?" Benjamin questioned, speaking for the first time, his voice cutting through the fog of her delusion. Clara looked at me, and I saw something I hadn't seen in a long time: doubt. Not about me, but about the lies she had swallowed whole, the narrative David had meticulously constructed. "He said you wanted to keep me away from him because you were jealous," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Because I had a perfect marriage and you failed at yours." I took a deep breath, the words stinging, a sharp reminder of my own past pain, but I understood they weren't truly hers. They were David's words, his poison. "Clara, your father and I separated because he cheated on me. You know that. And I have never, ever wanted anything but your happiness. If David truly made you happy, I would be the first to support you. But he doesn't make you happy, does he?" Sarah continued, seizing the moment of vulnerability, pressing gently. "You're more isolated, thinner, and more scared every day." Clara's tears flowed freely now, a torrent of pent-up emotion. He says I'm fat, that no one will want me if I don't take care of myself, that I should be grateful he accepts me like this." My heart shattered into a million pieces, my beautiful, confident daughter, reduced to doubting her own worth, her own appearance, her very existence. "Clara," Elena said, approaching cautiously, her hand hovering, wanting to comfort but respecting the space. "Mr. David is not who you think he is. He's manipulating you, just like he manipulated your mother's documents." "What documents?" Clara asked, confused, her tear-filled eyes still clouded with disbelief. Benjamin produced the copies of the forgeries Elena had photographed, laying them gently on the glass table in front of her. "These, your signature, and your mother's, forged. Part of a plan to take control of the properties, the stocks, everything." Clara examined the papers, her confusion giving way to shock, her fingers tracing the familiar curves of her own name, yet knowing she had never put it there. This is my signature, but I never signed these documents. And this is my signature," I added, my voice trembling, "on documents I've never seen, never authorized." The weight of the evidence, undeniable and damning, began to chip away at David's carefully constructed facade. Suddenly the landline in the house rang, its shrill sound making us all jump, a jarring intrusion into the fragile moment. The clock on the wall read 1:30 in the afternoon, David's usual check-in call, a daily ritual of control. "It's him," Clara whispered, panic returning to her eyes, her body tensing. "If I don't answer it," Sarah instructed, her voice calm and firm, cutting through Clara's rising fear. "Act normally. Say everything is fine." Clara hesitated, looking at all of us, her eyes wide with terror, clearly torn between the ingrained fear of David and the dawning truth. Finally, with trembling hands, she picked up the phone, holding it to her ear as if it were a venomous snake. "Hi, love," she said, trying to sound casual, but her voice was tight, strained. "Yes, I'm home. No, nothing different. Yes, I'm following the meal plan. No visitors." She paused, listening, her gaze darting to us with growing alarm. "No, I'm not hiding anything. Yes, I'm alone. Only Elena is here." Another longer pause, her face paling further. "David, I'm not lying. Please don't talk like that. No, I'm not crying." The desperation in her voice was palpable, a raw plea. David clearly sensed something was wrong, even over the phone, his manipulative instincts honed to a razor's edge. "We need to go now," Marcus muttered, sensing the escalating danger, his hand resting on the small of his back, a subtle gesture towards the weapon he carried. "Clara," I whispered, my voice urgent. "Come with us. Please." She looked at me, the phone still at her ear, silent tears rolling down her face, a battle raging within her. Then, in a moment of clarity that gave me a surge of hope so profound it almost buckled my knees, she spoke into the phone, her voice stronger, though still trembling. "David, I have to go. I'm not feeling well," and she hung up, ignoring the immediate ringing that followed, the insistent buzz of his control. "He's going to call the security guard," she said quickly, her voice urgent, grabbing a small purse from a nearby table. "We have to go before he locks the gates." There was no time to celebrate this small victory, this monumental step towards freedom. We moved quickly, a silent, coordinated escape. We left through the back, exactly as we came in, Elena leading the way. Marcus went to get the car while we waited in the yard, tense, listening for any movement, any sound that would betray our presence. "He's going to find me," Clara murmured, hugging herself, her body still trembling. "He always finds me." "Not this time," I promised, finally allowing myself to touch her arm, to offer the comfort I had longed to give. "This time, he won't." We drove to Sarah's farmhouse, a safe haven nestled among rolling hills, the journey a blur of adrenaline and relief. The first few days were a blur of tears, anger, and a slow, painful awakening for Clara. She was in shock, reeling from the betrayal, the lies, the sheer audacity of David's manipulation. It was like watching a person emerge from a long, dark tunnel, blinking against the sudden light. Sarah, Marcus, and Benjamin worked tirelessly, gathering more evidence, preparing a comprehensive case against David. Elena, a true hero, provided a detailed statement, her testimony crucial to unraveling David's web of deceit. We learned that David had been systematically draining Clara's inheritance, using her as a front for his illicit dealings, and that my accident was merely the final, brutal step in his plan to seize everything. His cruelty knew no bounds. Clara moved into the farmhouse with me, a temporary arrangement that quickly felt like home. It was a strange, delicate dance of rebuilding. She was fragile, easily startled by sudden noises or unexpected movements, her trust shattered into a million pieces. I cooked her favorite meals, simple comfort food that evoked memories of a happier past. I read to her from her favorite novels, the soothing rhythm of the words a balm to her wounded soul. And often, I simply sat with her in silence when she needed it, a quiet presence, a steady anchor. We talked for hours, slowly unraveling the tangled web of David's lies, each conversation a step towards clarity. She confessed how he had isolated her, convincing her that I was jealous, that her friends were bad influences, that only he truly understood her. She spoke of his constant criticism, his control over her food, her clothes, her every move, all disguised as love and protection. The insidious nature of his abuse was chilling. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and purple, a gentle breeze rustling through the leaves, Clara took a deep breath, the scent of honeysuckle heavy in the air. "It's strange," she said, her voice soft, contemplative. "I still love him in some twisted way. It's like a part of me still wants to believe that everything we lived was real, that he really cared." Her confession was raw, honest, and heartbreaking. "What you felt for him was real," I replied, gently, choosing my words carefully. "The problem is that what he felt for you wasn't love, it was possession, and there's a huge difference between the two." She nodded slowly, the understanding dawning in her eyes. "I'm going to need time to unlearn everything he taught me, to trust others, and myself again." Her voice was filled with a quiet determination. "You have all the time in the world, honey," I assured her, squeezing her hand, a silent promise of unwavering support. "And you're not on this journey alone." 5 years have passed since that night at the farmhouse. 5 years of healing, of rebuilding, of rediscovery. Clara, with a strength I always knew she possessed, finished her master's degree in social work and now works at a support center for victims of domestic violence in New Orleans, a testament to her incredible resilience and her desire to turn her pain into purpose. I'm still running my bookstore, which has become not just a business, but a vibrant space for community and awareness, hosting book clubs and author readings, a hub of connection. David is serving a lengthy sentence, with no right to contact us, his reign of terror finally over. We occasionally receive updates through Benjamin, who continues to monitor the case, ensuring he remains behind bars. Apparently, he's found a new victim through correspondence, a woman who believes she's communicating with a wrongfully convicted businessman. The authorities have been alerted, and his communications are being monitored, preventing him from inflicting further harm. Some scars never fully disappear. There are moments when Clara flinches at a sudden noise, or when her gaze turns distant as something reminds her of those years under David's control. There are nights when I still have nightmares about what could have happened if we hadn't acted in time, the chilling image of Clara falling down those stairs. But there are also moments of pure joy, of freedom, of peace. Like today, a Sunday afternoon, as we host friends for a barbecue in the backyard of the small townhouse we bought together, a cozy space filled with laughter and the aroma of grilling food. Clara is smiling, chatting animatedly with a group. Her confidence restored, her inner beauty visible once again for all to see. Elena is here too, her kind eyes sparkling with genuine happiness. She left her job at David's house, which was sold to pay indemnities, and now works with us at the bookstore, her quiet efficiency a valuable asset. She and Clara have developed a strong friendship, bonded by their shared experience, a testament to the power of human connection. Benjamin, Marcus, and Sarah have become part of our chosen family. We get together regularly, not just to remember the past, but to celebrate the present and plan the future, a future filled with hope and possibility. As I watch this scene, my daughter happy, surrounded by people who truly care about her, the sun warm on my face, I feel a deep gratitude, not just for having survived, but for having learned to live again, truly live. Clara sees me watching and she smiles. That smile that lights up her eyes and warms my heart, a smile I thought I might never see again. She excuses herself from her friends and comes over to me, sitting beside me on the garden bench, her presence a comforting weight. "What are you thinking about?" she asks, resting her head on my shoulder, just like she did when she was a little girl, her hair soft against my cheek. "About how strange life is," I respond, my voice a little thick with emotion. "About how sometimes we have to go through hell to find our way back home." She nods, understanding perfectly, her own journey etched in her memory. "You know what I learned from all this?" she says after a moment of comfortable silence, her voice thoughtful. "What, honey? That real love doesn't imprison. It doesn't control. It doesn't diminish. Real love liberates. It strengthens. It makes you grow." She squeezes my hand, her grip firm and reassuring. "Like your love for me." Silent tears roll down my face. Tears of joy, of relief, of profound love. 5 years ago, I was desperate, sitting in my car, watching my daughter through a window, trying to understand how we had gotten to that point, how our lives had become so fractured. Today, she is here by my side, free from the invisible chains that held her, radiating a quiet strength. And I am here, witnessing the miracle of her recovery, knowing that no matter how dark the night, there is always a chance to start over when the dawn comes. "Mom," Clara says, interrupting my thoughts, her voice soft. "Yes? Thank you for never giving up on me." I kiss her forehead gently, the warmth of her skin a testament to her vibrant life. "That's what moms do, honey. They never give up." And as the sun begins to set on the horizon, casting golden hues over our small backyard, and the people we love, the laughter and chatter a sweet symphony, I know that we are finally home. Not in a physical place, but in that safe space we've created for each other, where love is genuine, respect is mutual, and freedom is valued above all else. Some stories don't have happy endings. Ours almost became one of them. But thanks to courage, persistence, and true love, the kind that respects, that strengthens, that liberates, we managed to rewrite our destiny. And that's the message we share with all the Claras and Eleanors we meet. It's never too late to rewrite your story. It's never too late to escape the shadows and walk toward the light. It's never too late to come back home. This story is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to real people, events, or places is purely coincidental.